Hello everyone. I just wanted to do a quick update on SeeSaw as some of you are getting really frustrated with the tutorial I had before. The problem with the tutorial I had before was that everything was working as planned inside of Canvas, and then as you can see, because you saw it in the video, and then when you guys got onto it about a week after I made that, then it just stopped working inside of Canvas. So I just want to give you an update as to the best practices, how we're going to use this. The biggest thing that I want you to keep in mind is I see a lot of you are frustrated because it's kind of some of the things that you're looking at and how you see it. But what we really want to do is start focusing on is what will the students see, because the whole point of using Canvas and using all the tools that we're using right now is how do they affect our students and their experiences. So I'm going to be taking kind of a look through it with the lens of what it's going to look like for the student and how we can kind of work around the limitation that we had before by not necessarily worrying about that, but making it work so that when the students see it, it is the best possible thing for them. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to be talking about is what is happening. So if you're in your teacher view, you click on SeeSaw in here, you will see that it doesn't automatically log you in like it should be. Okay, and I'm going to be talking about what's going on with that too. It just pops up like this, and as you know, you're going to click I'm a teacher, you go to log in, and it doesn't work and it brings you back to here. But when you're in a new tab, you can see that you are logged in, and that's kind of the problem that we have. Now, this is not something that directly affects our students, and that's the part that I really want to focus on, is how did this actually affect students? For you right now, what you will see is if you try to use the redirect tool, because we had to use a redirect tool to give us our SeeSaw in Canvas as an app in here. But you will also see that anything that has a login whatsoever does not work. So let's say you wanted to use Kids A to Z in here. For you as a teacher on here, this is what you're going to see, is it's going to have some refuse to connect. Didn't work with SeeSaw, didn't work with that. I thought maybe it was some of these vendor issues. I put on here Pandora Radio. It has a login screen. This is what happens. If you go to Amazon.com for the login, okay, this is what you see. So this isn't just kind of a vendor thing issue with Canvas and maybe be SeeSaw's fault or whatever. It looks like things that are just not working inside of Canvas that have to have a login for it. You can do things that are just regular websites that do not require logins. Okay, so if it's just a regular website, let's say Chuck Norris Facts, you notice this loads just perfectly. You can click around, you can do whatever, and it's just not going to be affected because it's not one of those things where it's a special login screen that you're going to need for your students. So just keep that in mind, that if you try to link other things using your redirect tool, it's not going to work, especially inside of a Mac right now with that, because they're going to need to log in through that, and it doesn't work unless you're in a separate tab. With that being said, what you can do about that is you can work within those apps on your MacBook in another tab, which is pretty easy. If you just have that tab open, it's not a lot of extra work. You just click on that tab, assign what you need, click back over here, and when you go into your modules here, that's when you can put in your stuff, and this is the part that's going to really affect our students. Okay, so there's a couple different things. If you have it to where, especially on a MacBook right now, where students have to open something up like this, and it opens up inside of Canvas, that's where you're going to start having your issues. Okay, is where they try to log in and they won't be able to do that. So what we're going to be doing is each of our activities, we need to make sure that we set up to where it exports outside of Canvas. And you know, you'll be able to see that when you put that here as an activity. You'll see that it pushes it out. And if a student is on a Mac, what it will happen is it will pop up with the main page, and it'll say open up in a new window, or not necessarily a new window, but a new tab, even though it said window. And what will happen is it'll push them out to a new tab. It'll look a little bit different on an iPad, which I will definitely show you here in just a second. And most of you who are going to be using SeeSaw anyways are going to be having iPads So you'll see what that looks like, and it's actually a little bit easier to do using the iPad here. Okay. Some of you are going to be watching this and going, how did you make that activity go directly to the activity itself to add that response? And I'm actually going to show you that real quick, and we're going to create, I'm going to show you that, and I'm going to show you how to push out your assignments for your students here. Okay. So if you're in SeeSaw in your separate tab here, if you want your students to work on a particular activity, if you go down here to these 3 dots and you will push out just this one, you go up here, you get student activity link, and then click copy. And what's cool about that is when the students open up in their SeeSaw or in their Canvas and then into their SeeSaw, it'll open up just to that one activity and not just the main thing. I know some of you have been asking that, and we have that solved. All right, so let's try this out. So inside of our module, we're going to create a new assignment here, but instead of an assignment, I actually want to do an external URL. Okay, so I'm going to go in here and I'm going to paste that URL for just that assignment here, and then I can name it. You can either name it that assignment itself, but for my purposes here, I'm going to put SeeSaw activity. Nope, apparently I'm not. Activity 3, here we go. And the key here is that I want you guys to click load in a new tab, and that is what is going to push it out for students on the MacBook to where they can access this because the inside of Canvas window is kind of broken right now. So they'll just open it up in a new tab. So I hit add item. I'm going to go make sure that I enable that. Okay. Now, when a student goes into your module, okay, and they go to click on that, notice it'll look like an external push out over here. We're going to click here, open in a new window, even though it's a new tab, whatever. And it is going to open up to that exact assignment with their sign-in if they're already signed in. And they'll be able to add a response just to that one assignment, and it'll go right away instead of them having to go find it. So that's a pretty awesome workaround here. So if you already have SeeSaw installed on there, just leave it installed. There's nothing wrong with that installation itself. It allows you to access it through your activities, through your external links, through whatever you need to do. So all of that is actually still working. It just won't let you log in inside the window, which has been our problem. So as long as you make sure that your students are able to click out externally, that's fine. When I do the redirect tool, if you wanted to try to make this one push out to an external link just by clicking on here, I have found that that doesn't necessarily work right now. It won't actually create a new navigation button for me when I do that. So I've just been leaving it like this, which if you have iPads, I'm going to show you here in just a second that it's actually not that bad and it'll totally work as is, and you'll see why. It's just for right now, if you're a Mac user, this is the part that isn't going to really work for you. And then as a teacher, no big deal. I just got a tab open and I can continue working and everything will be totally fine. So just don't worry about that and just start working from over here. Like I just showed you all the modules and all the things for that tutorial on how to add assignments right here. Still going to be pretty much the same, but if you just watch this video, you'll be fine and you'll know exactly what to do. Instead of making assignments themselves, just do external URLs, and that'll be just so much easier for you and the most important part, for your students. Okay, I'm going to hop over to the iPad here real quick so you can see what it looks like for the students on an iPad, since most of you will be there. So I'll see you over there in just a second. All right, now we're over in iPad territory here, and this is where a lot of you really need to start focusing when you are thinking about using SeeSaw for Canvas. Is what is it going to look like, or what is it going to be like for your students? Okay, we have that little workaround where we just work outside of the Canvas tab to make our SeeSaw assignments, and then we can just push it out through URL. inside of one of your modules. So what does that then look like for your students? So let's go into student view. So this is going to take me into the Canvas for Student app. This is where your students are going to be. They click on your course, and here they can start getting into their actual classwork here. So let's take a look at what that looks like for them. Okay, let's click on SeeSaw here. So I'll click on SeeSaw. And notice it's not loading inside of Canvas here. It's actually loading in kind of a separate fake web browser. So what they're going to do is students can just click I'm a student when they get in the first time. They can scan their code, okay, and make sure they click allow. Some of them may not do that. But the key here is then you need to make sure that you sent out their home learning codes. So all they have to do is scan their home learning code, okay, and it will take them straight in. Okay. Now the biggest issue for me is I was always wondering is if they do this, if they get out of it, will they still be logged in? So let's test that out. So they're out of it. They click back in, and it will automatically put them back into SeeSaw with them already logged in. Okay, that's pretty awesome. Okay, but what happens then? Let's say if they then swipe out of their app here. So let's swipe out of teacher and student. Just try to clear all of that data, right? Okay, so let's try this again then. Okay, I'm going to go into my testing. Let's check out student view. Put you into the student app. They go back in again. They click on SeeSaw. And what's awesome right now is once it loads, is you'll see that they are still logged in. So if you are an iPad user, or you have students on iPads, it's actually really still convenient and still totally works for them. And there's going to be no problem for them whatsoever. Okay. Now let's go back to here. Okay. And then let's go down to modules here. Okay. And you will see that let's do our SeeSaw activity down here that should be pushing out a link to them. Okay, and they just click, here it is, and then open in Safari, which it doesn't actually open in Safari. If you take a look at the top right, it's not actually Safari, and it just pushes them straight into the activity itself, and they can just start going. Okay. So you can actually start pushing out all of your stuff straight to them, which is pretty awesome. Let's do this one, SeeSaw Activity 3. This is one Matt hasn't done yet. You just click on it, gets them in, and then they can just immediately start working on their stuff. So it has them logged in to their thing. It doesn't log them out. And then it also stays inside of Canvas. They click done, and now they're back into Canvas again. So technically, they never really left Canvas. Okay. And bonus thing is you now know how to push out the exact assignment to them so that they don't have to go find it within SeeSaw as well. So in the end, for students on iPads, this still works. Okay? Whether or not you link out to an external link to a new tab or not a new tab on an iPad, it will just always work regardless. If you have students that are on MacBooks using SeeSaw, that's when you have to make sure that everything then links out to a new tab. But if you're on iPads, everything should be totally fine for them. You don't have to freak out. You can still push out assignments using the URL method or an assignment method or any of the other methods, especially for iPads. Just make sure that you are working outside of the Canvas tab when you're creating all of your actual work in SeeSaw, and just assign like normal. Okay, so no freaking out, no worries. Again, we're here for the kids and to make it easy for the kids. Okay, so this is how we're going to work around it, and we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay.